Tell me when you go. All the talk before the fifth and the final ODI between India and West Indies was whether West Indies would be able to tie this series. Well, all they ended up doing after that fifth and final ODI was tie themselves in knot, because that's what happened on that day in Thiruvananthapuram, and that's the scorecard for you. West Indies 104 is all that they could manage. Only Jason Holder getting in the 20s, and of course Marlon Samuels also ended up crossing the 20-run mark. India chased that down very, very easily, 105 for 1. Rohit Sharma not out for 63. It was a day to remember for Ravindra Jadeja, picking up those 4 wickets, giving away just 34 runs. Also Khalil Ahmed picking up 2 wickets, the youngster having a second consecutive good game. Ajit Agarkar and Phil Simmons join me now on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday. Phil, will the real West Indies stand up? I don't know which is the real Windies team. Is it the one that we saw in Vizag and then in Pune, or the one we saw in Mumbai and then the one today? Right, I'm okay. We're not through to Phil yet. There is some technical issue. We'll try and go back to him. But I'll throw that same question to you, Ajit. Which is the real Windies team, or does it happen with teams which is ranked number 9, that you show some good form but then you taper off?
Yeah, I mean, you always expected India to beat them quite comfortably. It's just that the first 3 games, because they batted well, they competed for the large part of those games. I felt after that last game in Mumbai, it was always going to be difficult for this West Indies or inexperienced team to then, pick themselves up after that sort of loss in Mumbai and turn it around. But it was pretty bizarre. They won the toss, batted on a pitch where there was enough sort of grip and turn, or the ball stuck in the surface a little bit. Dropped a opening batsman, picked another bowler. Some strange decision making today by Holder or the team management, because I thought they got the 11 wrong, firstly.
Yeah.
And then they decided to bat first, where, lots happened on that pitch. I mean, usually you see better pitches in one-day cricket. Not that it was a bad pitch, but there was a little bit in it for the bowlers, which made their job even tougher. Easy day out for India, really. I don't think West Indies, after those first 2 wickets of Hope and Powell, really put up any fight. So, yeah, disappointing way to end the series, where they started so brightly in those first 3 games. Probably again, at the end of this series, you see how much the gulf was between the 2 teams.
They picked them after that Guwahati game, they didn't do really well in the first ODI, but then came back strongly. Do you think the margin of defeat in Mumbai, that was the big difference, and it was tough then to pick yourself up?
Yeah, it was demoralizing. And then you go and drop a batsman when you've actually batted poorly in that game. Yeah, okay, they conceded 370 runs, but it was a good pitch. And like I said, they competed because they batted well in those first 3 games. Whether getting 300 plus couple of times and 280 in the game that they won, 280 plus, which is the thing that you need to do in India. And especially when you decide to bat, I mean, obviously they read the pitch wrong. I mean, as soon as Virat was interviewed, he said it looks a bit sticky, that the conditions, overhead conditions, a bit cloudy. We would have loved to bowl first, and plus the dew in the night. Okay, it didn't go that far, but and then poor batting performance. I think the few young guys who had stood up through the series, obviously, the first 3 games took a lot out of them and suddenly tapered off quite dramatically in these 2 games.
Okay, I believe Phil is now back with us. Meanwhile, for those of you watching us on our Facebook page or the YouTube channel, do send in your questions. I'll try and put those questions to Ajit and Phil. Phil, I'll come to you. I mean, this is a point that Ajit makes. Previous game, it's the batting that led West Indies down, and then you go ahead and drop a batsman. Can you make sense of that? All right, I think we're still having some trouble. We seem to have his video, but he can't hear me. That's one thing. And the other, as you mentioned, they read the pitch wrong. It was tough conditions just to give some benefit of doubt to the Windies batsmen. Tough to bat against a Bumrah who was really getting the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you're playing against some really good bowlers. And although I felt in this series, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar was not at his best, just enough in there for him to get the ball to do a little bit in the air or off the seam early on. And Bumrah is just, is is up there. I mean, probably the best one-day bowler in the world, maybe even T20 bowler in the world at the moment. Not too many guys close to him.
The person whom you're trying.
So it's it was always going to be difficult. You saw Ravindra Jadeja. Every time Ravindra Jadeja spins the ball, you know there is help in the pitch. I mean, he's not a natural sort of, not a wrist spinner. So on a flat pitch, it becomes a lot harder for him to get any purchase. But here you could see, because maybe the tackiness of the surface, sometimes you can see the ball gripping the surface, and then he's a completely different bowler. So yeah, they could have probably seen it. Powell especially, that sort of drive, that big drive, like a flat pitch, could have maybe after that Hope could have watched a little bit. Okay, dipped back quite sharply, and then from there on it was always hard work.
Okay, I believe we have Phil now. Let me check that first. Phil, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I thought you were doing that on purpose, considering the way the West Indies performed. You really didn't want to discuss that performance. Okay, I'll throw that question to you. A few points raised by Ajit. One about, Windies not doing well with the bat in the previous game. Go ahead and drop a batsman and then misreading that pitch and then deciding to bat first. What did you make of all those decisions put together?
It's been a nightmare in decision making for them today.
Yeah.
Because if you score less than 200 in an ODI, and then you drop a batsman, that doesn't make sense. Also, you drop one of the batsmen who looked like he was getting into it now. He started well in the first two games especially, and then you come here with extra bowler. You win the toss and you decide that I'm going to bowl with the Jew that's predicted. So a lot of misread decisions, and I think the runs and the 377 and the score in the last match, I think it had a little bit to do with the decision making. It just confused their think tank. So a lot of wrong decisions, I think, today.
Right, and then we spoke about the Indian bowling in those conditions that you have. Just to be fair to that Windies top order, the ball was doing a bit, and then Bumrah at top of his game, it wasn't going to be easy for them.
Yeah, it was never going to be easy. But when you look at Shea Hope, he didn't start like that in the first three games. When you look at Marlon was driving at a ball that was halfway down, Jason driving a ball that was halfway down. It's not to say that a lot of these outs were down to the pitch. So you can't blame the pitch. I think we needed to, as a unit, as a batting unit, after the last performance, you needed to take things slowly and then carry on at the end.
Ajit, as a former fast bowler yourself, what did you make of O'Shane Thomas? Looked really good. One wonders why he didn't play throughout the series.
Yeah, we said that after that first game where he looked really good. Only bright spot for West Indies today, I think. As to sort out his no balls, cost him a wicket, but created chances against both batsmen. The only guy who looked like troubling, even Virat Kohli fended that one off, was dropped at slip. So if you can trouble a batsman of that caliber, there's obviously something there. Not quite sure why they left him out. It wasn't like his replacement was someone better than him. Hopefully they've found out now that they've got to persist with him, because he clearly has the goods.
Right. If he can stay injury free, is he one for the future, Phil?
He's definitely one for the future, and that's why we were so shocked in the second ODI that he was left out. Playing the 5 ODIs would have given him both confidence that he's part of the team, but also given him the experience to playing on these flat wickets against such a top-class batting lineup. So he is one for the future, and as I keep saying, it depends how they use him and how they nurture him.
Okay, let's take a look at the Indian batting now. Let's start with Shikhar Dhawan. He's been one of the finest one-day players that you've got in the current generation. What's going wrong with him? Hasn't had a series to remember.
Yeah, that's the second time actually he's played on to Thomas. I think extra pace, bounce, obviously was late on the ball. He'd like to get some runs. He's in a series where the rest around him have cashed in, whether it's a Rohit Sharma or Virat Kohli. He's missed out on all the games. So, and those top 3 are so critical to India's success. Most teams, you want your top order to be in good shape, but India more so because, Raidu is now stepping up and maybe making that number 4 spot his own, but still a long way to go. But those 3 need to be in good form for India to do well, and Shikhar Dhawan's a key part of it. So he'll be disappointed with the series he's had.
Okay, I'm sure overall most Indian fans would be happy with the performance. The only disappointment again would be, this was I think probably the last game that MS Dhoni is going to play for a while. Was the last one day probably, because there are not enough runs, you couldn't give him a run into.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit like we spoke in the pre-show. I mean, the only thing that surprises me, I mean, you expect to beat this West Indies team, or you should beat this West Indies team at home. Not to try guys sitting on the bench was, I think, I don't think India quite got it right.
MS out, considering he's not in form, and would have been a good opportunity.
They decided not to in the last game. I mean, they dropped Rishabh Pant, so I don't think one game would have really mattered. I mean, in that sense, they should have played Manish Pandey or KL Rahul at some stage in the series as well. But sometimes winning the series takes precedence over maybe what your long-term plans are. That's the thing. Even with making those changes, India would have still beaten, or should have still beaten, these inexperienced Windies team. So maybe an opportunity lost for India not to have given opportunities to guys on the bench. But no, I mean, as long as that top three is in good shape for India, generally things go well for them.
Okay, we've got one question for you. Ayush Shah sent a question on Facebook. He wants to know, Hardik Pandya, without him, they've done well in the ODI series, but will India miss him in the T20I?
Probably not. I think not as much in the T20 as much as they would miss him in the one-day game, because he's clearly their fifth bowler and third seamer, although Khalil stepped up really nicely in the last couple of games, which is a real positive. Left arm are doing well, gives Virat Kohli other options, or that variety in the attack is always helpful, especially with the World Cup in England. I know it's a long way off still, but if he keeps developing and improving, his style of bowling will be really handy in England. One-day cricket, Hardik Pandya coming back will definitely strengthen that 11. Whether, again, depends on conditions, whether they play him as a third seamer or the fourth quick. But as an all-rounder, just gives so much balance to that team.
Okay, since you mentioned Khalil, a follow-up question on that. Unlike Mumbai, where the conditions really helped him or suited probably his style of bowling, these weren't conditions that were helping him. Probably also came on to bowl a little late. But how did you see him adjust to the condition and yet be effective? Yeah,
I mean, it's adjusting to the length, isn't it? Different pitches, you'll have to bowl different lengths. I mean, Mumbai, he could afford, because there was swing, a lot more swing than we saw here. Here, maybe there was a bit off the pitch, more than in the air. So you had to bowl a different length. I think once he came round the stumps, he got it spot on. Maybe try to bowl full, thinking of the last game where there was swing, and which is the right thing to do, because he did get swing, but quickly adjusted, which is a good thing, because one-day cricket, it's not often that you get to swing the ball, which is two new balls, so about 8-9 overs old. But he adjusted quickly. So again, improvement from the last game, very impressive.
Okay, Phil, looking ahead to the World Cup, because when we talk about the Indian team also, we talk in context of the World Cup. What do you think are the positives that the Windies will have from this series? How many of these guys would we be seeing at the World Cup too?
I think there are three positives from this series that you're going to be looking to be going World Cup. And that's, first of all, Shai Hope, the way he's batted in this series. Hetmyer, the way he batted in the series, and then the captain, the way he bowled and batted. You can see that these three guys are going to be an important part of the squad for the World Cup. O'Shane Thomas is a youngster. You don't know what's going to happen between now and then, but the main three guys out of this series are Hope, Hetmyer, and the captain.
All right. Plenty of questions coming in. We usually don't take comments, but I'm going to take this one because it's an interesting one. Raja Asad Afsar writes that, MS Dhoni can play till he wants to, and that's for the team management to decide. But one thing he would like MS Dhoni to do, even after he's out of the team, is to, become an umpire, because he's really, really good with those calls that he picks up and, behind the stump tells you when you can take.
He should write to MS.
Maybe he can. Maybe through our medium, MS can get to know that as well. But he's not saying that, he should be out of the team at the moment. But Sarat Kailash wants to know, is there a way India can play both Pandya and Jadeja, considering their performance recently? I'm sure he's looking at series ahead.
Yeah, for me, I think Jadeja is a very condition-specific player, particularly bowler. As a package, of course, he can contribute to the bat down the order. But bowling, you saw as soon as there was a bit of turn today, or a little bit more grip in the surface, he looks like a different bowler, more dangerous. On a flat wicket. He has his limitations as a bowler. It'll depend on the conditions. I'm not sure both of them might fit in the 11. I hope they get Chahal back at some stage. And they don't follow this sort of template with playing Jadeja and leaving Chahal out, because I think he's been one of the key factors that India has done well in one-day cricket because of the wickets in the middle. Hopefully they don't leave him out for too long.
Right, finally, the star for India, he's in the form of his life, Rohit Sharma. Might be the man of the series for you?
I mean, Virat Kohli got 300s in the first 3 games.
Yeah.
Somehow, we tend to forget that.
Just that they're competing at a different level.
Yeah,
the two of them,
I don't think it would matter to either of them who got man of the series, because both, as long as those two, and of course Shikhar Dhawan, if he needs to get his form back. Those 3 are playing well. India generally ends up on the right side of the result in one-day cricket, I think, and which is a plus as well as a little bit of a worry. Where fortunately Raidu's had a couple of good scores, which will give him confidence going forward. Because at 4, 5, 6 need to step up when the top 3 have had a tough game, which doesn't happen too often.
All right, we'll leave it at that. In fact, the man of the series is Virat Kohli, as we were saying, got those 300s. But because, Rohit also had a fantastic series, 63 not out. The lucky charm for India, though, has been Kedar Jadhav. He's come back, hasn't had much to do either with the bat or the ball, but he's come back and India has managed to win the series. Almost the best 11 that they've played. That might be playing in the World Cup as well. Phil Simmons, Ajit Agarkar, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking about this one-day series. Of course, we'll be back with Match Day when we look ahead to the T20. That's all that we have for you at the moment.